So training camp started taking place this week. Most teams have everyone's reported by now. And so I thought, what better time than to debut our new form of power rankings here during training camp. Now, I reserve the right, again, Tony and I do this every year. We give you our over-unders for each NFL team, and that will be my official predictions. But this is not predicting win and loss. This is not predicting division winners, although some of that context will make itself apparent. This is simply, in my opinion, where I think these teams are going to rank. Obviously, we know I think really highly of Denver. So I start off the show. Then there's your obvious Bills, Baltimore. There's some teams that I feel like are not getting the respect they deserve. I also wanted to switch this up because last year we were doing the step ladder and we're just doing the top 10 teams. There's a part of me that I want people to know, this is the sports sicko in my head, that even if your team is not very good, that you are thought of. And I want this is my showing research that I do my research. I do my studying on every single team, good, bad, or indifferent. So with that being said, this is the debut of Get Good, Get Great, Get Out. Now, there's more categories than that. So we have Get Lost, Get Out, Get Good, Get Great, Get Excellent. Get Lost these are the teams that unfortunately I reserve the right to be wrong, but I just don't see it from day one. There's things, every team has a handful of good players. It's the NFL. These guys are all professional athletes. Some of these teams have Hall of Famers on them or future Hall of Famers. But some of these are just man, I just don't see it from day one. And so Get Lost, I just don't think you're going to be a major factor in the NFL season. Get Out, this is a lot simpler. This is, I don't see you as a playoff team. Maybe you'll win 6, 7, 8 games, but I would be shocked if any of these teams in the Get Out section make the playoffs. That means Get Good, Get Great, Get Excellent. Obviously, these are all potential playoff teams, if not playoff teams. So Get Good, you are in that mix. I would not be totally shocked if you made the playoffs. I could also see you missing it by a game. There's always that one team that just isn't quite there yet. Get Great, these are some of obviously the best teams in the league. These are teams that I'm extremely confident will be in the postseason. And Get Excellent are, in my opinion, the best teams in the league. There is no, it has to be this many teams in each. If I think truly, and you'll see this more and more, if I believe you're just so terrible that if we have a team go 0-12 and it's just all bad and maybe there's injuries that make the roster even worse, I might just throw you out of Get. You might not even make the list. If I only feel like there's one great team, if I feel like Philadelphia, which is potential, has truly just separated itself from the rest of the league, I will use that context, and they may be the only team in Get Excellent, if not make another tier for them specifically. So, again, Get Good, Get Lost, or say Get Good, Get Great, Get Out, and we have our 5 tiers. So let's start with the Get Lost. These are the teams that I just don't see it from day one, and I think these are pretty conventional. These are all teams that I think have a really good chance of firing their head coach. So let's just go left to right. This isn't left to right in terms of I think this is the best team on the left versus the worst team on the right. They're just all in there. Eventually I will get left to right, but had some time restrictions, so couldn't do that today. Cleveland, look, man. All I hope for Cleveland, again, like I said, Hall of Famers. Myles Garrett is a first ballot Hall of Fame player. He is amazing. Maybe the best pass rusher in football. Denzel Ward, amazing corner. But that ain't enough. And the only thing I really see from this team is the storyline of Will Shedeur start. Again, there's been talks that, he's been doing a great in training camp. I also think that's because they don't have really any great quarterback in camp, so he is shining. But I don't see a world in which the Cleveland Browns make the playoffs, which is a shame for a team that just made it 2 years ago, and I think truly did have a lot of talent on the roster. The Arizona Cardinals, I think this is Gannon's last year, and I think there's a really good chance Kyler Murray gets traded. Look, the storyline for the Arizona Cardinals is, can we fix Marvin Harrison Jr., a guy who was considered as elite a prospect as we've ever seen at wide receiver. And year one, obviously there's other factors, but both Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. looked like they were better than him. And this is, again, one of the best prospects we've ever seen in the position. Let's fix him, please. I think there's a really good chance Kyler, they're not going to want to continue. Again, as quarterback contracts get into these $45, $50 million deals, if you're not contending or at least even a playoff viable team, teams aren't going to want to pay you that. Kyler's obviously talented. I think there's a really good chance Gannon's gone after this year and Kyler gets traded. Indianapolis, look, Anthony Richardson, I know he has his faults, but if Daniel Jones is what you're hoping for, I think that speaks for itself. The Saints, I just don't think have enough talent. Sorry, I think this is one of the. They were ranked 32nd in the roster. They have talent, but all their talent is older. It's injury prone. It is a little over the hill, so they're not as high level impact guys used to be. Cam Jordan's going to be a Hall of Fame player, but he's not who he was 4 or 5 years ago. And the Giants are starting Russell Wilson, which if the last 3 years of football have taught us, I don't care if the Steelers made the playoffs last year. Russell Wilson being your starting quarterback doesn't make a lot of sense, and just I don't see. And I like Dable. I think Dable's a really good offensive mind. I think he's going to get another job after this, but this is easily going to be, in my opinion, his last year in New York. So these are the teams. I think they're just dead on arrival. Quick editing error. I also have the Titans in here. Apologies. They were supposed to show up. The Titans, again, this whole year, this is just a little bit of a talent deficiency thing. This is all about building up Cam Ward and seeing what he can do. I do think we kind of retracted, and I had this statement on the Titans a little bit ago that, they were actually not that terrible of a team. Will Levis was just single-handedly losing games. I think that was valid to a degree, but I think a lot of people have circled that around too much, and this is still not a good enough football team, in my opinion, to make it out to the playoffs, especially. I think this is a lost season for them, but you're developing the first overall pick, so you have that to look forward to. Moving up to Get Out. This is our largest section. These are just the other teams that I don't think are good enough to make the playoffs, but it's not as lost cause as these other teams. These are going to be on the fringe of a lot of people's, you're going to see these guys in the hunt window. A couple of them where they're 2-3 games out with a few weeks to go, but I don't think it's realistic that any teams make it. The Jags, I do wonder if Liam Cohen is going to be able to operate with a quarterback who needs a bounce-back season, Trevor Lawrence, a rookie who's trying to do the unprecedented and play both ways in Travis Hunter, and a roster that still has a lot of holes. I think you've got some high-profile guys who are clearly extremely talented, but it's a first-time head coach. I'm not nearly as high on Trevor Lawrence. I have sold almost all of my Trevor Lawrence stock over the last couple of years. When your only claim to fame in the NFL is you beat the Chargers in the playoffs, well, welcome to the rest of NFL history. The Miami Dolphins, I think this is Mike McDaniel's last year. I think Mike McDaniel is really smart, but I think there is a lot here that is just not going to go their way. I don't think Tyreek Hill, who I think single-handedly 2 years ago just was so amazing in what he did and how he performed that it actually covered up a lot of holes. I think this team has a lot more issues than people really want to acknowledge. I would actually so much so that this division, the AFC East has turned back into what it was when Tom Brady was there, which is the Patriots, who were great, and the other three teams were a shit show. I think it is slowly starting to turn into that, except I have more faith in the current version of the Patriots than I do the other two teams, even though I think they're all in this get out tier. The Cowboys, look, Jerry Jones is fucking this all up, man. Okay. You've got Dak Prescott. You've got Micah Parsons, at least for this year. You've got CeeDee Lamb. You just traded for George Pickens. This should be, you have enough high-end talent. This should be a more serious playoff team. But once you get past the high-end talent, which I don't think is good enough to just outright carry you, it's a roster missing a lot of holes. The O-line has gotten worse and worse. I know they just drafted Tyler out of Alabama, but I think this roster has too many holes. Jerry, I think, has set a really bad precedent with how he's handling the Micah situation. I know Trayvon Diggs as well, but I don't think as highly of Trayvon Diggs as a lot of other people. Still a good corner. I don't think a great corner. He jumps a lot of stuff and gets beat a lot of times. The Jets are the better version of the Cowboys. The Jets' high-end talent, Sauce, Garrett Wilson, that's legitimate all-pro level players that they have. This is Aaron Glenn's first year. We're going to see how Justin Fields. Also, we need to separate when we say carted off. That's not riding in the front of a cart. Like they blew that injury way out of proportion. I like Justin Fields. Don't love Justin Fields. I think this team has about 3 or 4 really high-end players, and the rest of it is just okay. But again, I don't think they're anywhere close to the other teams I think are going to compete for a wild card and/or clearly the Buffalo Bills. Seattle, to me, had one of the bigger downgrades. I'm not the biggest Geno Smith guy, but I'm definitely not a Sam Darnold guy. I think they're going to have a lot of the same issues they had last year. I do think, though, this defense, Mike McDonald, year 2 in his system, we should see a lot of improvements there. Atlanta, look, man. Atlanta is the home of optimism. This team I would love to be optimistic about, but I feel like every time I'm optimistic about Atlanta, I get bit in the ass. I was one of those people tweeting out 28-3, and then look how that turned out when they were up 28-3. And so I think there's optimism here. There's clearly talent. But, like, I did not love the whole Michael Penix, hey, we're throwing to Kyle Pitts a lot. And it's like, okay, well, I've heard that for 5 years in a row. So I think a lot of talent, not as optimistic here. Carolina, again, something I think we've gone a little too far. I think we killed Bryce too early. But now that there is this Bryce resurgence, well, he played at the end of last season, and I really like Dave Canales. I do think Dave Canales is really smart. I think he gets the most out of that offense, even with limited personnel. J.C. Horn is great. I like Xavier Legette, even beyond his personality. But Bryce still has his struggles and still has his issues. And I think while it was cool to see him play well towards the end of the season, I think we're going a little too far back the other way to say, oh, he's clearly going to be to ensure that he's going to be a great quarterback or a team that can get to the playoffs. The Patriots, look, man, I just don't think the Patriots have the roster yet. I like a lot of what they did. I like Mike Vrabel. I like Drake May. I like a lot about this team. I just don't think they're quite there yet with either their skill position or their defense. I think Stephon Diggs will be fine. I don't think he's as totally done as far as some people make it out to be, but I also don't think he's a huge impact player. I just think this team is another year or two away, just roster-wise. But I'm rooting for Drake May. I like Drake a lot. And the Raiders, Geno's clearly an upgrade. I do think that when I use, I'll say something cautiously optimistic about the Raiders. It's not optimistic. It's just cautious. Pete Carroll. So all I heard when Sean Payton got hired a few years ago was, is Sean Payton a Drew Brees merchant? And Sean had to beat those allegations. Pete Carroll in the NFL has to now beat is he a Russell Wilson merchant? Yes, and he had Geno, and Geno and him had a good season together. But there was a lot of winning when Russ was there. Yes, he revived Geno's career in terms of making Geno a good quarterback, but there wasn't a whole lot of winning, and it was especially a drop-off from where Russ was. So let's see what he does post Russell Wilson in Vegas, especially when I still think they are – I got to finish in third in this division. It's a stacked division between coaching, roster, talent, and so I think it's going to be really hard for them to make the playoffs. In Get Good, I'm probably going to get burned on the 49ers. Let me be very clear. Maybe some of my Chiefs hate because the Niners were the closest team to competing with the Chiefs during their run. But you still have Nick Bosa. You still have Fred Warner. You obviously lost Greenlaw and Hufanga to Denver. I'm not super high on Brock Purdy. You still have Trent Williams. You still have Ayuk, who I think will make a comeback. Purdy is, let me be very clear here. I think Purdy is fine. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's terrible. He's fine. And I have a lot of trust and faith in Kyle Shanahan. So I like your coach. I like all of your high-end players. And I think that there's a really good chance because, as you see here from rankings, I think Seattle is obviously not going to be a playoff team, which helps. They're in your division. Now, you do have to contend with the Rams, and that's going to be really tough. But I think the Niners have a really solid chance here. To be good, I don't think they're quite a playoff team. The Bengals are the weirdest team because we know they are excellent or great on offense, but they are just that bad on defense and at ownership and management. So it's like Joe Burrow is just if I was a betting man, bet who's the best quarterback to not make the playoffs. He's going to be the safest bet every year for the best quarterback to not make the playoffs. Green Bay, I just think, is good. I don't think Green Bay is excellent, especially now that Jair Alexander is gone, who I think was their premier, exceptional player, a guy that if you, multiple teams would want him. He's no longer that. I think they're just a bunch of good players, including Jordan Love, who I think got paid too fast, but is what it is. I think they're epitome of a good team. The Texans, I thought, should be and get great by this point. I still like D'Amico. I still like C.J. Stroud. I don't love Laramie Tunsil being traded, especially when that offensive line already had so many issues. But I guess why have somebody who's that highly compensated if your line's not going to be very good, which is probably fair. I think they're going to win their division because the division's not very good. Again, I have two of their teams and get lost. So, not a very strong division, understandably so. But, yeah. Chargers, I think, again, are going to be good. Jim Harbaugh, they're going to run the ball. I love both their tackles. I think the defense, the stat that they were number one, I think is overrated. I don't think they're one of the 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5 best defenses in the NFL. I think they're just a good defense. But Harbaugh is probably going to get this team to the playoffs again. And then Mr. 9-8 himself, Mike Tomlin, the Steelers. I don't actually, the same way, I think the Packers are actually just a good football team. I don't think the Steelers are. But they're just going to end up here, so I'm just leaving them here. Get great. Vikings, Rams, Bears, Tampa, Washington. I expect all 5 to make the playoffs. I expect the Buccaneers are going to win their division. Baker, Mike Evans, again, I love what they've done. Washington, I do think Washington, we have to lower expectations a little bit. I think there's obviously a wild card team because Philadelphia's in their division. But I think we also have to lower some expectations that if they make the playoffs again but lose their first game, that's not a true step backwards. What you have to accept if you're Washington is that we are now a perennial playoff team, and year by year, a certain transaction here or a free agent signing here or one guy gets better, has a career, that is what is now going to make or break the difference for you while you have Jaden Daniels a quarterback, even if you don't get to the NFC Championship game every year. The Bears, I think the other 2 teams in this division, in regards to, I think the Vikings got a little bit worse, and I think the Packers got a little bit worse, and I think their records, I was about to think with Green Bay is, go look at Green Bay's record against winning teams last year, by the way. I think Ben Johnson, this offensive line, I believe in Caleb Williams, despite what the internet thinks. I do think they're going to finish second in this division. I also think that the Vikings are in here, and I want to clarify. One of these teams aren't going to. Because if you start counting our NFC teams, you're going to be like, wait, we have one too many playoff teams. The Vikings should be a playoff team. Now, that is all going to make or break on J.J. McCarthy. But there's just so much talent on this team, both offensively and defensively, and I love Kevin O'Connell as a head coach. I feel like they got to get there. It's just, this could be all blown up. This is a great team that could just get blown up by their rookie quarterback being a rookie, which is valid, but I love too much about this team to not have them in. Great. Which means we have 6 teams left. And our 6 teams in get excellent. You guys already heard me talking about Denver. I'm not going to re-explain it. Yes, I will. I like talking about them. Arguably the best offensive line in football. Arguably the best defense in football. Cortland Sutton, go look at his contested catch rate for everybody that's like, oh, Cortland's not a real receiver. Just drafted R.J. Harvey, brought in J.K. Dobbins to help with the running game. Marvin Mims, even their special teams. Marvin Mims is a 2-time All-Pro. Sean Payton. There's a lot here that I really like. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. It is your last year, Travis Kelce. We'll see what we get out of that. I've been saying Chris Jones is secretly declining. Chiefs fans don't want to hear that. That's fine. We'll see how that plays out, but you still have to respect them as long as they have Mahomes and Reid. And then, in my opinion, the 4 best teams in football. Ravens and Bills, I think, are both very similar. MVP level quarterbacks. They have MVPs, obviously. Great overall roster constructions. High-end talent everywhere. These are, in my opinion, the 2 best teams in the AFC. And then the Lions and Eagles. The Lions would have been in conversation for the best roster returning, but they've had some offensive line. They've had retiring. They'll be playing 2 rookies. So that might be an issue. They still have Penei Sewell, obviously. They still have Jared Goff. You've obviously got the loss of the 2 coordinators, but I believe in Dan Campbell that even with the loss of the 2 coordinators, that they are still going to be that team. And Philly, how do you describe Philly? At this current moment in time, there's nothing that you just wouldn't love about the Eagles. Something will happen. There will be, knock on wood, either an injury or a guy decreases his level in play, or something will happen, some kind of issue where they're not going 17-0, even though they're going to be better than everybody on their schedule. They're not probably going 16-1 or 15-2. They're going to lose a handful of games. Something is going to slip, even if it's just a notch. And so, with that being said, what don't you love about them day one? They got defense, offense, quarterback play, receivers, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, secondary, linebackers. Like, they have everything. So day one, what don't you love about them? And besides, I would flip Denver and KC. My get excellent is left to right. The rest of them, not so much. But we'll get to left to right. So, again, our debut of get good, get great, get out, our ranking system for every single NFL team. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. I mean, if you want to be a part of one of the coolest, most unique communities, don't forget to like and subscribe.